Hello everyone. Thanks for being here. The room is packed. That's pretty awesome. So
there's room to sit here, guys. Come.
There's no some seats in the front. So thank you again for being here. I will try my best to teach you some tricks I've been experiencing since I started Pentest seven years ago. So I'm Thomas Debize. I work as an InfoSec auditor and consultant in France. So as I'm French, please be indulgent with my English. I will be making some mistakes. I hope and I expect you to be indulgent. So technically, let's start. What changed right now? What changed in the pentest field during that decade? So technically now, in 2018, it's now easily possible to scan the entire IPv4 space with distributed and vulnerable computing. It was done in 2012 with the census research. With asynchronous programming, ZMap, Masscan, Unicorn Scan, I hope you know these kind of tools. With third-party platforms doing it for you, Shodan, Zumai. Zumai is the Chinese Shodan, for those who don't know. Scans.io and Census.io. It's also possible to query all the open source information you want offline by building your own platform. I was at that talk at Debize Las Vegas last year. It was really awesome. The guy tells you how to build your own platform and your mass scale large big data platform to index everything and perform some queries for free. And then some online services, I guess. I hope you all know the tool ReconNG, which is based on different modules. Those different modules will query not the main tool because it's a closed and not free platform, but it will query certificate transparency, hacker target, and so on. So again, with online services, you have a lot of OSINT information. And you can, right now, pull large Windows in corporate infrastructures with reconnaissance. I hope, guys, you all know PowerView. Bloodhound, for sure. Who doesn't know? Who already heard about Bloodhound? Okay, cool. So a lot of pen testers here. So Bloodhound, you can hunt some domain admins. That's cool. Exploitation, CrackMapExec. Who knows about CrackMapExec? Oh, less hands, but still. Responder, a great tools again. Post-exploitation, Mimikatz for another French guy. Invoke Mimikatz, being fileless. And Empire, another cool framework. And then you have one ultimate tool, which is called Destar, which automates everything. You just click and you're domain admin. And so why do you need to adapt your technique now? So my thesis is to say that a lot of things change and you need to parse a lot of data today to be a good pen tester. So more and more security folks are writing more and more tools. More and more security folks are writing more and more good quality and reliable tools. That was not the case before, to be honest. And you will be asked to cover wider scopes. And to be honest, it already changed. Current penetration testing assessments require now pen testers to scale. A few weeks ago, I was pen testing 150,000 Windows domain infrastructure. So you have to be pretty sharp and to manage the data in order to pwn the domain and to cover it on the whole. So starting with the tricks, the first thing is to say is you have to pass a lot of data from a lot of tools, different tools. So keep it to CSV for data analysis and processing and reporting, CSV, always CSV. So because a lot of the pen testing work involves an iterative work, you scan some targets, you exploit them, you harvest new data on them, and then you use the new found data again on the same scope. So technically, you know this kind of progression, that's our work. So you have to be able to quickly process some data at scale. And so you have to choose a good data format. The universal and the most simple data format is CSV. It is a common format in different programming languages. Even Python has some problem. Python 2 has some Unicode problem with it, so you have to take care of it. Hopefully, Unicode CSV managed to manage the UTF-8 encoding. It's a human readable format, so go out JSON and go out XML. And it's a rather simple format, but there's no standard. So you have a lot of different CSV types. some few rules for encodings. Please use UTF-8. Quoting and escaping, escape and quote all your fields. And last thing, beware of CSV injection. Sorry, just my mic is that my mic says make some noise. Yeah, it's not too painful for you. Okay, thank you, because I hear a lot, but okay. So beware of CSV injection. I don't know if you know here, but you're injecting, if you open this kind of document in Microsoft Excel, it will pop a shell because it interprets some data. You just have to take care of it. Maybe it could be used, I don't know if it's really used in red team engagement, the CSV injection problem. So on the whole, use CSV. Because there's a lot of tools starting with Nmap to CSV who handles and process CSV and gives you not only an action, a perform action, but gives you some reports in a common format, which is CSV. Nmap to CSV is a script of mine. If you ever use it, please tell me. It would be cool. It passes an Nmap output to CSV, which is really important for large domain, large scales attacks. Then you have wfuzz, which is also a great tool to attack some web services. Test SSL.sh, I hope you know it, to test and to assess the SSL TLS quality of a website or service. Blowdown, Offcrack, ReconNG, Nikto, Nesius. This kind of good tools, they're all able and they all process CSV. So 3 tools to handle CSV. The first is Microsoft Excel. That's really simple. Yeah, the screen blinks. It's not that painful also? No? I see it blinking. Okay. So I hope you know how to process CSV with Excel. You just click on text to column and you specify a separator. That's easy. But this is one real life trick and caveat. The max number of lines in Excel is 1 million. You could say 1 million is enough. No, 1 million is pretty short when you have thousands and hundreds of thousands of assets to parse. 1 million is easily reached. This is a common encounter issue. Then one of the tool suites that changed my way of working is CSV Kit. I don't know if you know it, but CSV Kit is a suite of tools, different tools to perform different actions to handle CSV. So you have for input, you have CSV clean, CSV format, which can transform anything in CSV. CSV clean just to ensure that your data is really well formatted and there's no error in this. Processing, you have cut, grab, join, sort, and stack. So join, this is that was really awesome when I discovered it. So you can execute an SQL-like join to merge CSVs between them on different columns, not only with an hook, cut, sed, and tricks and whatever. Just with a proper tool, you can perform whatever you want. A CSV is technically a database according to CSV Kit. And for the output analysis, you have CSV SQL, so you can perform finally any SQL queries you want on a CSV file. That's really awesome. And CSV stat to print some statistic on a file. Just a quick demo to show you which kind of information you can have. So imagine you, I will just zoom it. Okay, it's right here. No, just for the font. Profile. I don't. Sorry, I can see it because it's way too blinking here. Okay. Ah, that's great. Thank you. So imagine you have an Nesius output with scanning for some stuff. CSV stat, which kind of output what can give you CSV stat? So here I'm filtering on some several interesting columns just to prevent you to see some unwanted stuff. Here you can see it performs a lot of statistics on each column. You can have the largest value, smallest value, unique values. It's also cool. CVSS, you can already see that there are some high targeted and high profile vulnerabilities. Host, you can see which host is mostly vulnerable in your report. And name, you can have finally the plugin output name of the Nessus. So here you can see some interesting stuff. Let's say you don't find your life and you don't find anything interesting here. Just try to perform a CSV command on the file, looking for something really cool. So here I will look for that kind of vulnerability. I guess you know who know which kind of vulnerability it is in my CSV file, and I will display it in a fancy way in my terminal. The file here is a bit larger. It's like 10 megas. It's nothing for big data volumes, but still. So you have here, you can perform really a true SQL query on a CSV file. To me, that was really awesome when I discovered it. So here you can filter, and that's really cool. Going back to the presentation, so that's one of the tools I mostly use, CSV Kit for everything. So you've already seen this kind of stuff. Then you have Dataiku. Who in this room knows and ever heard about Dataiku? No one? It's a data science tool, recognized tool. You can perform and process gigas and teras of data with it, mostly based on CSV. So you can join and perform everything on this. That's pretty awesome. I will just show you just after. And really, you can perform a lot of stuff. Technically, let's start here again. So here you have to create some projects. I can show you. So here in Modern Pentest Tricks, my data set you've seen for my Nessus report. And here you can perform anything you want. You can analyze the same, which kind of host is mostly greping and highlighting. You can filter. Here I filtered on some stuff. You can see different values here. They will pop. So you can filter easily, and you can process and target everything. Then just apply. I applied this way of working with data dump. I crossed a lot of data dump recently. So let's take the Dropbox leak for the Blowfish part. Here you will see that I crossed. This file is, I guess, 2 gigas with another list consisting of hash and cracked passwords, clear text. In only like on my poor PC, which is not a server, in 5 minutes I crossed like an SQL-like query, a 2 gigas file with something like 100 megas list of hash. So you can easily cross some data. That's all my work, and I guess all of your work is to cross some data between them to have some high valuable results. So really Dataiku is really easy. I can show you here just how you can cross it. It's a lot of things can be performed visually. So here I'm taking 2 data sets. I'm just preparing them with a script, a repeatable script. So here the first thing is that I perform is to join the hash column with another data set. And then you can add some steps. There's a lot of data processor. That's really awesome. It sounds like I work highly promoting their tool, but really I don't work for them, but I really use their tool, and that's pretty awesome. So then this is the kind of result you can have. Then the second trick I mostly use is parallel execution. In our work, again, a lot of our task is to extract the results, apply the same processing to a list of targets, launching a brute force on multiple targets with WFOs and whatever for URL enumeration. Being able to launch simultaneously different actions is really crucial to cover large scope. Again, here is your HTOP. When you have this, you're not really happy because your computer is not doing anything interesting and you don't maximize the usage. With GNU Parallel, you have a lot of possibilities. GNU Parallel is a Perl script, being able to launch any command you want. It's a drop-in replacement of Xargs. That's Xargs, but on steroids. You can perform a way more stuff more easily. You have some progress bar, job log, resume capabilities. That's pretty awesome. everything's free. That's GNU Parallel. And in the end, it's really common for me to have, when I perform and launch some task, to have my htop to look like this. So I'm pretty happy when my computer is using a lot of resources. So in short, use as much GNU Parallel as possible. Who in this room regularly uses GNU Parallel? Okay, a few hands. That's really, again, a cool trick for me, at least, to perform a lot of work quickly. Just let's apply this technique to a common pen testing action, URL enumeration. So I'm using here wfuzz because it outputs CSV and JSON. So for the record here, I'm not using CSV. That's an exception because the JSON output format is way more convenient for the URL processing. So here I have a target list, which is comes from another tool, another data set, nmap, whatever you want. It looks like this. So I'm having here a job log to be able to resume my execution. I do have a progress bar. That's pretty fancy, and you know at which step you're in, sorry. And then I'm launching the wfuzz command, which is a complicated command, but it's every time the same. You filter here on the HTTP code, this one just to not to have not found 404 not found files. Here I'm giving it brute force list, and I'm fuzzing. And here you can recognize that's pretty, that comes from Parallel. You have a cell-like expression because in my input file, you know, I have some bad characters. You cannot create a file, an output file with this, with a colon and a double slash. So here I'm filtering on the fly the input with a cell-like command. I'm removing batchers. Again, gaining time, covering more scope and a greater report and pen test on the whole. And here, I could even pipe in a Unix paradigm, the data piping stuff. I could even pipe the result once it's performed to GQ to process the JSON, to filter only technically just to go straight to the point, the code and the interesting code and the interesting resource I can find. Having a 200 here, I want to have all the data, just filtering only for having everything except not found. But here I just want to focus directly on 200 response code. And then I can provide and filter again with pipe sed and giving a list to web screenshot. Web screenshot is a tool that I made. It's gaining a lot of popularity recently. I don't know why. It's a simple tool based on Python and Phantom.js, just to take simply a list, to take a screenshot of a list of URL automatically. And just after, you just process the image and you can find some interesting file and interesting resource with your eyes. Your eyes and your brain is way better than looking at some complex result files. Then, for high-level scripting languages, for easier static and dynamic analysis, that's another trick that I use a lot. Again, in our work, a lot of our activity is to reverse some custom or what the fuck obfuscation or encryption schemes. It's true, it's especially true for Android and Java thick client applications. Well, no, because I'm just trolling. I'm kidding. It affects any technology. People do not understand crypto. So, but still, I used it a lot during Android application assessment. Sometimes you don't want to go down the rabbit hole to figure out a custom algorithm made by crazy people is working. Sometimes you just can't replicate the code in your favorite language. I can give you an example. I was digging down the rabbit hole for Oracle WebLogic Server. They encrypt locally their passwords with PBKDF. There's a typo here. PBKDF, PKCS 12, SHA-1 plus RC2. There are no Python module. Even if I wanted to replicate and to develop a decryptor, I couldn't because no Python module was existing for this. So I had to leave off the land and to reuse what they were using, that is to say Bouncy Castle in Java. So I was using Jython in order to reuse the same library to perform and to write a decryptor. So my advice for static and dynamic analysis is to to master Jython and Frida. I guess you know Frida. There was a good presentation this morning about Frida and Brida. So for static analysis of Android and Java application, which again is a lot of our activities, with Jython, who in this room again knows about Jython? Oh, cool. Way more people. So Jython in 2 words is to write Java code in Python that can use Java classes and also Python libraries. Isn't that awesome? And again, it's Python syntax, so it's way easier than Java. Then for Frida, you write some Python or JS or QML or Swift or .NET code that injects C++ scripted in JavaScript with the Google V8 engine, and you can instrument everything, assembly, Dalvik, Objective-C, and you can perform it on Windows, on Mac, Linux, Android, and whatever. That's again a pretty awesome tool. Just not to bullshit you, you can look on the left a classical Java encryption scheme, a classical, but you don't want to go down. You can recognize here local IV parameter spec, secret key spec, local cipher, cipher get instance, do final. This is the Java way of doing encryption. If you want to perform this kind of action to prototype something to decrypt or to encrypt, to replicate the feature, you can do it in Jython. Jython is really easy. You can import Python style the libraries, JavaX, crypto, and so on. You write your variables. You call the correct and the appropriate libraries, the same names, and you go until the do final that perform exactly what you want to do. Really, the code ripping here is really light. You just take the Java source, paste it in the notepad, remove the new, remove the semicolon, remove the try and all the Java bullshit, and you have the Jython code. And this is pretty awesome. A real life example for me was a WebLogic password decryptor that I wrote in Jython because I couldn't in true Python, no module was existing for the encryption scheme. Just to have a quick demo of this, again, I can show you. So, Jython. So here, I wrote a tiny Java-like encryption scheme in Python, in Jython. It looks like this. There's a few lines. There are even more print lines than the encryption lines. And really, you recognize the parameter, you recognize the secret key spec, and so on, and it performs exactly the same as Java. And even better, you can, even if you have a jar file from Android decompiled application or from a Java-C client, you can import here the jar with sys.append. It imports just like Python. It imports a module, and you can call them the functions and the classes inside the jar file. Again, that's pretty awesome to replicate and to prototype something for decryption, encryption, and custom stuff. Just so you have seen this code. I'm having a hey Ivy, big key. I'm just encrypting YOLO swag, and you will see that's pretty easy and that works, I guess. So you just have to type Jython, apt-get install Jython, and you have it. And here you have the Java-like encryption feature. So let's go back to the presentation. So that's my that was my third advice, just to master Jython and Frida. I wanted to perform a Frida demo, but I don't have many time to perform it, so I couldn't do it. Last but not least, compiling Python scripts on the fly. In our work, in our field, a lot of security tools and security stuff is written in Python. And sometimes, because on the target you cannot have a proper execution environment for dependencies, a correct interpreter, you cannot install your execution environment because you have no root, no outgoing connection, because you're lazy, because you cannot just have a proper reverse shell interpreter because you need to evade antivirus. In all that case, you can compile your Python tool in a native executable, Linux, Windows, whatever architecture with Python and pinstaller. Who in this room again know about and ever used pinstaller? Okay, a few hands. That cool logo. So pinstaller technically bundles the script with a Python interpreter to install it on Windows. You can perform a pip install pinstaller, but you just have to install some Visual C++ compiler before. And you can even apparently cross-compile for Windows from Linux with Wine your Python script. That's pretty awesome. The most useful options in pinstaller are --one file. It creates a standalone executable file. Everything is in a single executable file. That's cool. It's technically a UPX compressed payload, self-extracting payload. 1 year, because sometimes I will show you just after, but your executable is way too heavy and it takes a lot of time to unzip it before executing it. So you can have, instead of a single executable file, a single directory with everything already unpacked on this, but you just have to move and then to transfer the directory instead of a single executable file. Because it takes a long time to unzip when you have a single executable. Then you can also have a key option because by default the payload is encrypted with a random key. The key is inside the payload because you just have to decrypt it. There's no self brute force for the key. That would be a nice use case, but you can specify your own key if you want to evade antivirus, because a lot of antivirus are having signatures on pinstaller, and maybe you can try to evade antivirus like this. And then at the end you have an icon option just for visual fanciness. So some example of Python scripts, Python real scripts and real programs compiled with pinstaller. First, you have in-packet examples that, again, compiled by me on my GitHub. So you have all the cool in-packet examples file, tiny scripts that you can use during a Windows assessment. So technically, you will recognize all this utility. And so you can recognize some cool stuff. Every file is standalone. You can just take that executable, which is not too heavy, like 4 or 5 megs, and just drop it on the target, and you can execute it. So you have some high profile and high value executable. So psexec, ntlm relay, summer dump, secret dump. I was using secret dump recently on my engagements because I couldn't install. It was too heavy, and I couldn't even transfer the ntds.file. So I had to bring the secrets dump on the target, just with the single executable, just to parse the ntds file. Again, you have smb exec, smb relay exec, double umi exec, and so on. So that works. pinstaller in real life work. Again, even more interesting when you have a lot of dependencies, such as PyTator. This script depends on a lot of third-party modules, Paramico, HGPI, PSNMP, and so on. You have all that module in that tool in the compiled version. There's a lot of module, and the module also have their own dependencies. In the end, this is a Kafkaïen mess. This is a mess with dependencies, but in the end, pinstaller managed to bundle every dependency in a single executable file, like 20 megas. So that's big, and that's way too long when it has to extract, but at least it works. So if you want a single program being able to brute force and to scan a lot of stuff, take patator-windows on my GitHub, and you have everything in one file, and you're happy. Again, I compiled also crackmap exec for Windows, and this is an old version, but a version supporting UTF-8. Thank you. Thank you, ByteBleeder, because UTF-8 is this is really broken in the current releases. When you're French and you have accent in your charset, you cannot really perform a real Windows assessment with the current crackmap exec version. And then another tool for Java debugging when expose a Java debug wire protocol with only seeing the service, you can pound the target. Some demo. So just again, not to bullshit you. Recently, I discovered another cool tool which is called rpivot. Who knows in this room knows rpivot? Okay, so that's a cool Python utility to perform some tunneling. It's like SSH tunneling, but without SSH and without the reverse and local option. You just tunnel everything, and that's great. So that's written in Python. So you have here the code is pretty tiny. There's not much code. There's not much dependency. Everything is native. And if you cannot again deploy your tool on the target on the server you routed or not routed, but you gain a full toad on it. So you can just try to compile one file. Or you can just also try to compile your script. So you have two utilities in that stuff. They're server and client. So just compile the one you want, the version you want. It will compile it, I guess. It doesn't take many time. And in the end, you will have a native executable that is ready to be dropped on the target. So build was successful, so you just have to go to dist, and here you have your binary. So that's a compiled version of that tool, ready to be dropped. I'll just try to execute it on to show that it works. So, and the size is 4 megs. So the tiny script with a light Python interpreter. Okay. So taking a step back, my main messages is to CSV kit all the things, data equal the things, new parallel everything, Jython all the thing, Friday all the thing, and pinstall everything. Thank you.